My son and his wife shoved my husband and me into the basement of our own home, their voices echoing down the stairs as the door slammed shut behind us. This belongs to us now. The dampness clung to my skin, and before my fear could even settle, my husband leaned close and whispered, "Hush. They don't know what sits behind that wall." And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Because the fear didn't start with shouting or the lock clicking shut. It started with the way his whisper trembled, like whatever waited behind that wall had been waiting far longer than our son ever knew. I didn't realize it then, but that was the last normal sound I heard that night. But before we begin, I have a question for you. Where in the world are you listening to this story from? Leave a comment below, and please press the like button and subscribe to our channel, so this story of ours can reach even more hearts. Because on nights like this, it feels comforting to remember there are real voices out there. When, in this house, every voice felt wrong. You've lived here for years, long enough for me to notice the small things. How the walls creak at the same hour each night, how the foundation shivers before a storm, how the air sometimes moves even when nothing else does. I used to ignore it. Used to tell myself old houses make old sounds. But I know better now. This house has a way of breathing. And over time, I learned to recognize its rhythm as clearly as my own. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, I felt something inside my chest drop, the way it does when you miss a step on the stairs, and your whole body forgets how to breathe. That sharp metallic click echoed through the basement like a small piece of thunder, bouncing off the cold concrete walls and sinking into the damp air that always smelled faintly of soil and old metal. A thin line of dust drifted down from the ceiling, shaken loose by the slam, and for a second I wondered if it was my legs trembling or the floor beneath me. My husband reached for the railing to steady himself, his fingers stiff from age, and I could hear his quiet inhales struggling against the chill. Only then did the truth settle into my bones. Our own son had locked us in. No warning, no argument. Just that click and the sound of his footsteps fading away. I whispered his name, my voice cracking from both fear and disbelief. But the basement swallowed the sound before it even reached the door. The single bulb above us flickered weakly, making the shadows on the wall tremble as if they were breathing with us. It was the kind of darkness that doesn't stay still. It moves. It leans. It presses against your eyes. I gripped my husband's arm, feeling how cold his skin was, how thin it had become over the years. And that was the moment the real fear started. Not the fear of the basement, not even the fear of the locked door, but the fear of what our bodies no longer let us do. My knees tightened, my breath turned tight in my chest. My hands tingled with the old familiar warning that comes when the cold creeps in too fast. When you're younger, fear makes you ready to move. When you're older, fear makes you aware of every weakness you didn't want to think about. I hated that feeling, the one where you know you can't run even if you need to. My husband's breathing was slow now, steady but heavy. The kind of breath that comes when your lungs argue with the cold. Yet even with all that fear inside both of us, confusion burned even brighter. Why would our son do this? Why push us inside the basement without a word? Why avoid our eyes before he slammed the door? We had seen stress in him these past few days, twitches in his hands, dark circles under his eyes. The way he paced at night like someone waiting for something terrible to happen. But never, not in all our years, did it cross my mind that he would lock us away. I tried to call out again, louder this time, but my voice cracked halfway through the word. The basement made everything sound smaller: my voice, my hope, my strength. A soft drip echoed from somewhere deep in the pipes, steady and slow, almost like a clock marking each second that we stood there without answers. My husband squeezed my hand, not with fear, but with something else, something determined. "We have to stay calm," he muttered, though his voice wavered just slightly. I could tell he was thinking as hard as I was. Thinking about the strange calls we overheard. Thinking about the way our son kept looking toward the basement this week. Thinking about the moment his face went pale before he pushed us in here. And just as I opened my mouth to ask what he thought was happening, the light flickered again. This time the bulb didn't settle. It buzzed, flickered hard, and cast a long trembling shadow across the far wall. My husband stared at that wall, a second longer than he should have. I saw something shift in his expression, fear mixing with recognition, almost like he knew something I didn't. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. What was he looking at? Why did it make his shoulders tense? The drip in the pipes kept counting the seconds, slow and steady, while the silence between us thickened. And then, very gently, he leaned close enough that only I could hear him. "Quiet," he whispered. "There's something behind that wall, and I've kept it hidden for years." Before I could even form a question, the basement door slammed shut above us, so hard the light bulb rattled. I froze. My husband's eyes darted upward, and then his face changed. Not scared, but calculating, like he already knew what this moment meant. The sound of the lock sliding into place was louder than it should have been, like whoever shut us in wanted us to hear it, wanted us to feel trapped. I rushed to the stairs and pounded on the door, but the wood felt thicker than usual, heavier, like it had been reinforced without me ever noticing. "Stop," my husband hissed, pulling me back with a grip tight enough to hurt. "Don't let them know you're panicking." Them. He didn't say him. He didn't say our son. He said them, as if more than one person was upstairs. As if this wasn't just a childish tantrum, this was a planned trap. My heartbeat surged into my throat. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, but he shook his head, raised a finger to his lips, and pointed to the far corner of the basement. A place I'd never paid attention to. A place that suddenly felt wrong. "They think we're helpless down here," he murmured, voice trembling not from fear but from urgency. "They don't know what's behind that wall." My breath hitched. What wall? I'd lived in this house for 15 years. Cleaned every shelf, folded every storage box, and I had never once seen anything unusual. But the way he kept staring at those bricks like he'd been waiting for this day, like he'd been hiding something from me, made my stomach twist. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, as if someone upstairs was standing directly above us, listening. And suddenly, I wasn't sure which terrified me more, our son locking us down here, or the secret my husband had just confessed without fully confessing it. I didn't want to remember the last time our son looked at us like this, but the memory slammed into me anyway, fast, sharp, like my brain didn't want to soften a single edge. It started with the phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. His voice low and rushed, saying, "No, not yet. They're not ready." Then the way he slid my husband's spare key into his pocket as if he'd been doing it for months. And that look, God, that look right before he pushed us toward the basement stairs. Not angry, not scared, determined. Like he believed he was doing something necessary. I barely had time to reach for him before he locked himself in my husband's study, the door clicking shut with a confidence a child shouldn't have. That was when my husband whispered, too quietly for our son to hear, "I should have told you sooner." Before he overheard. I didn't understand what he meant, but the fear in his voice was new, heavy, wrong. And before I could ask him anything, the memory snapped in half, because a whisper drifted through the present. Not from my son. Not from anyone I recognized. The voice was older, calm, and it said my name. Every hair on my arms lifted. My husband grabbed my wrist hard enough to make me gasp, eyes wide, listening. Then above us a slow creak. Another step. Someone was moving again. And just like that, the past vanished, because danger was already descending the stairs toward us. The footsteps on the stairs didn't come fast, they came slow, dragging, almost thoughtful, like whoever was up there was deciding exactly how close to get. My husband pressed his back to the wall again. The same place where the faint line in the concrete ran like a hidden seam, and I could feel his pulse hammering through the air between us. He wasn't looking at the stairs anymore. He was staring at that line, as if the danger above mattered less than whatever waited behind this wall. "Don't move," he breathed, and there was something in his voice I hadn't heard before, urgency mixed with guilt. The floorboards above groaned again. 1 step. 2. Whoever it was had stopped right at the top of the basement door. My breath caught. My throat tightened. And then a slow twist of the doorknob. Just one careful test, as if they were checking whether we'd react. My husband flinched. He pressed his palm against the seam in the wall, and for a second I thought he was praying. But then I felt it. A faint vibration under my fingertips, like something deep inside the wall was responding to his touch. "This shouldn't be waking up," he whispered. I grabbed his arm. "What do you mean? What's in there?" His eyes didn't leave the concrete. Something I thought I sealed forever. Before I could ask more, the basement door above us clicked open slow, deliberate, and the darkness at the top of the stairs shifted, as though someone was leaning in, watching us. My husband stepped in front of me, protective, trembling. And then the voice came again, soft, older, calm, floating down the stairwell. But this time it didn't say my name. It said his. The way my husband's name floated down the stairs didn't sound like someone calling it. Sounded like someone remembering. Slow, steady, too familiar. My husband went rigid, as if that voice reached into a part of him he'd tried to bury. He didn't look at the stairs. Didn't breathe. Just whispered, barely moving his mouth. "Don't answer it." The steps above shifted soft, patient, like whoever stood at the top wanted us to move first. The air tasted metallic. The whole basement felt tighter, as if the walls were inching inward. Then the voice spoke again, clearer now, calm and horribly certain. "Open the wall." My husband stumbled back. No. He couldn't have told them. Not about this. His hands flew to the faint seam in the concrete, palms pressed flat as if he was holding something inside. I stepped closer. "Why does it want the wall? What's back there?" He finally looked at me, terror raw in his eyes. "Not what?" he said. "Who?" My blood ran cold. Before I could speak, the concrete behind him uttered a deep, low groan, like something on the other side had just pressed its weight against it, and was pushing again, harder. The first sound that hit the basement wasn't a groan this time. It was a single, heavy tap from behind the wall, firm enough that I felt it through the floor like a quiet warning. My husband stiffened instantly, not confused, but familiar, the way someone reacts when an old mistake suddenly knocks on their door. Before I could speak, another sound came upstairs, soft footsteps slowing at the top of the basement stairs, each board creaking as if whoever stood there wanted us to hear every shift of their weight. My breath caught in my throat. My husband's hand tightened around my arm. "Do not answer," he whispered, and that tone, I hadn't heard it since the year he disappeared, and came back refusing to explain where he'd been, or why he woke up screaming for weeks afterward. Another tap sounded behind the wall, deeper this time, more deliberate, and unlike before, there was no vibration, no dust, no rumble, just a cold, hollow impact, like someone using a knuckle on the inside of a coffin. I felt my legs weaken, a strange lightness in my knees. And then, the stairs answered. 3 light taps. Human. Or something painfully close to it. The contrast froze me. The wall taps were older, weighted, certain. The stair taps were sharp, precise, almost eager. They weren't random. They were talking, communicating through the structure of our own house. My husband's face went pale as he whispered, "Not both of them. Not tonight." The word both hit me harder than the sounds. Both? How many things did he think were here? I tried to step back, but the cold pipe behind me made my spine jolt straight, a sudden alertness shooting through me. Then silence, deep, thick, listening silence. The kind that feels like something is tilting its head toward you. My husband moved closer to the wall, placing his palm against the seam like he was checking for a heartbeat. "It shouldn't have found us," he murmured. "Not after all these years." A sharp breath escaped me before I could stop it. Years? The wall gave a second tap, slower now. Almost patient. And upstairs, the reply came instantly. 3 soft knocks. Perfectly matched. Perfectly timed. One side ancient. One side human-shaped. Both choosing the same rhythm. My knees nearly gave out, and I had to grip the edge of an old shelf just to steady myself. My husband turned, gripping my shoulders suddenly, eyes frantic. "Listen to me. If that wall gives way, you run to the far corner. You don't look. You don't react. You don't even think." My voice cracked. "Why? What happens if I look?" His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "It remembers faces." A bolt of cold shot straight down my spine. The footsteps upstairs shifted again, this time descending 1 inch down the stairway. Not a full step. Just enough to make the wood sigh. As if whoever stood there wanted us to know they were choosing their moment. And then behind the wall another sound emerged. Not a tap. Not a groan. A breath. A warm, steady exhale pushing through the concrete, as if something leaned close enough to speak through it. I staggered back, heart punching against my ribs. Upstairs, the figure exhaled too, but colder, sharper, like winter blown through a keyhole. 2 breaths, 2 beings, 2 temperatures. A shared rhythm. The house felt wrong, like it was holding 2 separate heartbeats at once. Then, without warning, the wall tapped 1 final time, and the stairs answered instantly. Same pattern, same pace, same intent. And just as the tap synced perfectly, a tiny crack zipped across the wall seam, like a lightning bolt trapped in concrete. My husband grabbed my hand, panic flooding his voice. "It's calling to someone," but the rehook hit me before I could respond. If both the living and the unliving were knocking in unison, which one was calling for us? For a moment, the house felt strangely weightless, like the air itself was holding its breath. Not quiet, waiting. And before I could call my husband again, the thing inside the wall gave 1 long, dragging scrape, as if it was shifting closer, peeling itself toward us 1 inch at a time. The sound wasn't just noise anymore. It felt aware, patient, choosing its moment. And that was somehow worse than the tapping had ever been. I stepped back, but the floorboards warmed under my feet, as if something beneath them recognized me. A strange, wrong familiarity pressed against my nerves. Like hearing someone hum a lullaby you don't remember learning, but your body remembers the tune anyway. That realization hit harder than it should have, and for a second my vision narrowed. Then the staircase answered. A single sharp tap. Not a pattern this time. Not a message. A warning. My husband flinched so violently his shoulder hit the wall. "No," he whispered, breath shaking. "Not both. Not now." And the fear in his voice didn't sound like a man scared of monsters. It sounded like someone terrified of a decision he hoped he'd never have to make. I grabbed his arm. What are they? What do they want? He didn't look at me. He looked at the wall, almost like he expected a face to push through. They want different things, he said softly. Different parts of us. A chill crawled straight down my spine. Parts? He shook his head. You weren't supposed to hear any of this. You weren't supposed to ever be in the middle of a choosing. Choosing. The word didn't feel random. It felt ritualistic. Before I could ask, the wall scraped again louder, closer, followed by a deep, slow thud, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. The temperature in the hallway dropped instantly, breath blooming white in front of my face. A micro-event sharp, cold, undeniable. At the same time, the staircase creaked under an unseen weight. One step, then another. Lighter than the wall. More deliberate. More human? Or a memory pretending to be human? My pulse spiked. Which one is dangerous? He closed his eyes, pained. Both. But you said they want different things, and neither of those things should ever touch you. He cut in, voice breaking. I made a promise once, a long time ago. I swore I'd never let what followed me choose again. That was the brie crumb, small but huge. Something had followed him. Something had chosen before. Tell me what happened, I whispered. He shook his head. Not now. If the one upstairs reaches us first, it will speak through something familiar. Something you'll want to trust. Don't. No matter what voice it uses. My chest tightened. And the one in the wall? His answer was barely audible. It remembers us. I prayed it wouldn't. But it does. My body went cold from the inside out. Why would it remember us? His silence was the worst answer of all. Before I could push further, the house reacted violently. A sudden, heavy slam hit the wall behind us, dust raining from the ceiling. The staircase groaned as if something sprinted halfway down, then stopped mid-step. The air split in two directions, cold from the wall, warm from the stairs, like both presences were leaning in at the same time. Choosing. Evaluating. Deciding which of us it wanted more. My throat locked. What is it doing? My husband swallowed hard. It's choosing who it speaks to first. And why? That hit like a punch to the chest. Not what reaches us. Who it reaches. The wall gave a low, resonant hum that vibrated through my ribs. The stairs answered with a soft, almost affectionate tap. Two entities. Two intentions. Two different hungers. And somehow, we were standing in the exact center of their interest. My husband grabbed my wrist, his grip trembling. If the wall gives, don't look. If the stairs move, don't speak. And whatever you do, don't answer the one that sounds like someone you love. And then the house fell completely silent, as if waiting to see which rule I would break first. For a full second, nothing moved. No scrape, no tap, no breath. The hallway just hung there, stretched thin like the house itself was afraid to exhale. And in that awful stillness, I felt something I hadn't felt before, not fear, not confusion, but attention, focused on us, zeroing in, like we were no longer intruders, but the answer to something neither entity wanted to ask out loud. My husband's hand tightened around mine, not comforting, desperate. It's listening, he said. Both of them, waiting for the first mistake. A low vibration rolled through the floor beneath us, not loud, subtle, almost like a cat purring under the boards. But I knew it wasn't affection. It felt like anticipation. The wall responded with a sharp, brittle tick, one single beat, crisp as bone snapping. That was the first micro-event. and it made the entire house feel smaller. "What do we do?" I whispered. He didn't blink. "We move. Slowly. No sudden sounds. No direct answers. Direct answers to what he didn't say, and that omission felt intentional. We started inching toward the bedroom, but halfway there the lights flickered violently, 3 fast bursts. Then one long, heavy glow, like something was draining the electricity each time it breathed. My husband froze mid-step. "What?" I asked. "That pattern," he murmured. "It hasn't used that since." He cut himself off, but his face gave it away. Recognition. Old recognition. A second breadcrumb slipped out before he could stop it. "You've spoken to it before, haven't you?" His jaw clenched, but before he could answer, the staircase answered for him. A soft, fragile sound. A child's humming. My blood turned to ice. Not words, not tapping. A tune. But here's what made my stomach drop: the melody wasn't unfamiliar. I didn't know the lyrics, didn't know the origin, but my nerves pulled tight like the song had lived somewhere in the back of my brain, waiting for the right moment to surface. My husband grabbed my shoulders. "Do not follow that. No matter what it sings." He said sings, not makes, as if it had sung to him too. Before I could ask anything, the wall reacted violently. A deep, dragging smear scraped across the plaster, long enough to travel from one end to the other. The temperature dipped so fast my teeth clicked together. Something inside the wall wasn't just moving, it was aligning itself. Choosing its direction. Choosing its target. The humming on the stairs thickened, sweetened, almost pleading. The wall throbbed with a low, territorial growl. 2 entities. 2 desires. Both circling us. "Why are they fighting?" I whispered. "They're not," my husband said. "They're deciding. They want different pieces. They always have." Pieces. He kept saying that word like it didn't destroy me. Suddenly the house shifted a full-bodied shudder, like something slammed a door inside the walls. Dust rained from the ceiling. A hairline crack ripped upward along the wallpaper, jagged as lightning. "That's the wall," he muttered. "It's forcing a path." A micro-event hit instantly, an abrupt gust of cold air bursting through the crack, brushing across my cheek. And in that cold, I swear I heard breath. Slow. Heavy. Not mine. Then the upstairs humming stopped. Not faded. Not drifted away. Stopped. Silence rushed in so fast it felt like pressure in my ears. My husband inhaled sharply. "That's bad," he said. "What does it mean?" "It means the one upstairs is waiting for us to react to that." He pointed at the crack in the wall. A thin, pale fingertip, just one pressed through the split in the plaster. Not reaching, not grasping, just testing. I staggered back, heart thundering. "Oh my God." He grabbed my face with trembling hands. "Listen to me. If it opens that wall, don't scream. Don't run. Don't let it know you recognize it." "Recognize what?" His answer came out hollow, broken. What followed me here? What I should have buried deeper? What never forgot the sound of my voice? The fingertip curled slowly, beckoning us closer with a patient, almost loving motion. Then the humming upstairs started again, only this time. It sang my name, and the house braced itself for whichever one I would answer first. The sound of my name drifting down the staircase didn't feel like a voice anymore. It felt like a hook sliding under my skin, tugging gently, testing how easily I could be pulled. My legs wobbled, not from age, not from fear, but from familiarity. I hated that. I hated recognizing something I had no memory of knowing. My husband yanked me backward, just as the fingertip through the wall dragged across the cracked plaster, carving a thin, white line toward us, slow, deliberate, marking territory. The two sounds, my name being sung upstairs and the wall being scratched open, didn't compete. They overlapped like they were harmonizing. And suddenly, a horrible thought bloomed in my mind. They're not trying to scare us. They're trying to agree on us. My husband whispered, "Don't look at the crack." So of course my eyes flicked toward it. And what I saw froze me mid-breath. A second finger slid through. But it wasn't the shape that broke me. It was the angle. Wrong. Bent. As if whatever was behind the wall didn't understand how human bones were supposed to work. Or didn't care. The fingertip tapped the plaster twice sharp, rhythmic, impatient. And the stairs upstairs responded instantly with the same two taps, mirroring it perfectly. A conversation. A negotiation. About us. My husband's breath hitched. It remembers that pattern. God, after all these years. What years? I hissed. What did you do? What did you bring here? He didn't answer, because the house answered for him. The light bulb overhead blew not with a pop, but with a soft, hissing crackle, like something sucked the filament out from the inside. Darkness swallowed the hallway, leaving only the thin glow from the cracked wall where pale flesh moved like shadows underwater. A micro-event hit fast. The upstairs floorboards groaned. And then, footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming down one stair at a time. Back. My husband rasped, pulling me toward the bedroom. But the wall didn't want us going that way. The crack widened in a sudden, violent jerk. Plaster exploding outward, as if something shoved the entire panel from behind. Dust blasted into the air, choking, gritty, burning my throat. Through it, I saw an eye, just the edge of it pressing close to the gap. Not human, not fully, but it blinked like it remembered being one. I stumbled back, dizzy. Why is it opening now? My husband swallowed hard. Because upstairs stopped singing. It wants the first claim. Claim. The word punched the breath out of me. The footsteps on the stairs halted just above us, one final step left. Then the humming rose again. Louder, sweeter, almost triumphant. As if the thing up there realized the wall entity had made its move. They weren't fighting, they were competing. For me. For him. For whatever part of us each of them wanted. My husband dragged me into the bedroom and slammed the door. Locking it even though we both knew a lock meant nothing to things that lived inside walls. He pressed his ear to the wood, listening. "Tell me the truth," I whispered, voice trembling. "What followed you? What remembers you?" He didn't look at me. He didn't breathe for a moment. Then, something I met before you. Something I escaped. Something I swore I'd never let near my family. He finally turned, and the fear in his face was so raw it didn't look like him anymore. I was wrong. It never stopped looking. A deep thump hit the bedroom wall behind us, one single, pulse-like knock that vibrated through the floorboards. And right after it, from the hallway, a soft, perfect echo of the same knock. 2 knocks. 2 entities. 2 demands. My husband grabbed my shoulders like he was bracing me for impact. "Listen, please. Whatever you hear next, don't answer. Don't react. Don't choose." But it was already too late. The lights in the bedroom flickered back on by themselves. Not a flicker, actually more like someone turning a dial to wake them up. And in that cold electric glow, the bedroom closet door eased open all on its own. Just an inch, just enough for the dark inside to breathe. From the crack in the closet, a voice whispered softly, and it wasn't upstairs. And it wasn't the wall. It whispered like it was inches from my cheek. Why didn't you tell her about me? My husband's face went red. The house wasn't dealing with two entities. It had been three all along. The house didn't shake this time. It shifted like it was adjusting its memory of us. And when the three voices overlapped again, something in my chest locked up, because now I understood what I was hearing. Not where they came from, but when, a breath behind the wall, a footstep in the hall, a shape unsticking itself from the dark. Three versions. Three outcomes. Three futures we were never meant to see. For a second, the room felt too small for the truth. It's not haunting us, I whispered, barely able to get the words out. It's showing us who we might become. The thought hit harder than the sounds. It grounded everything like the house wasn't alive, but remembering. A tap came from the closet. Not loud, just deliberate enough to slice through my spine. My ribs tightened again, but more terrible than the sound was the emotion that rose with it. For the first time, I wasn't scared of the noises. I was scared of what they meant about me. My husband didn't look at the closet. He looked at me, and that was somehow worse. One remembers what you become, he said, voice cracking. One remembers what it turned me into. One wants to trap us. His throat worked like he was swallowing glass. They're not ghosts, he added. They're versions of us, consequences I tried to bury. And that finally gave the scene a shape. Not clear, but sharp enough to cut. The darkness in the closet shifted again, slow and aware. I froze not because it moved, but because I felt something awful, something familiar tug inside me. Recognition. Not from memory, from echo. It leaned forward the exact way I once did in the dream I tried to forget. My breath caught. My knees wobbled. Whatever was behind that door wasn't a stranger. A faint tapping, same rhythm. Same hesitation, like it knew I'd remember that tiny, awful detail. My husband grabbed my wrist. Too tight. Too desperate. You don't want to hear it, he warned. If you do, its future becomes the loudest one. The closet creaked open an inch. Just an inch. Just enough for the darkness to gather itself like a throat preparing to speak. And suddenly the whole room felt hinged on that next sound, that next word, because whatever it was about to say could rewrite the truth and make its version of me the only one that ever existed. The door didn't open any farther, but the darkness behind it tightened into a shape that moved the exact way I do when I'm trying not to breathe, like it had finally chosen which version of me it wanted to mimic first. A thin, breathy sound slipped out, half whisper, half memory, and my whole stomach dropped because it didn't sound like a creature. It sounded like me, the voice I heard once in a dream I'd tried to bury. My husband pulled me back, but the floorboards groaned under us, like they were tired of holding two futures at the same time. Don't answer it, he whispered, but the problem was I wasn't sure it was asking anything. It felt like a warning, or worse, a rehearsal. The wall behind us pushed inward by a hair, right where the eye had blinked hours ago, and the air suddenly tasted like metal and déjà vu. Like something inside that wall remembered us before we remembered ourselves. My breath snagged in my throat, and for a moment everything blurred together, footsteps above, plaster shifting, dust drifting like ash, and I realized I wasn't scared of the sounds. I was scared of which version of me was right about what came next. My husband's voice dropped. It thinks you're the one who changes everything, and something in my chest twisted. Because before I could reply, a flicker hit me, not a full memory, just the ending of one me, standing somewhere darker than this basement, leaning forward the exact same way the thing in the closet just had. Recognition punched through me. Not from the past, from the after. Then the hallway above us thudded once, heavier than before. The kind of sound a future makes when it's close too close. Because the upstairs one wasn't a memory or a warning. It was the version of us that almost happened. If it reaches us, my husband said, tightening his grip until my fingers went numb, we don't get to choose anymore. And right then the house seemed to brace itself, the wall pressing in, the closet shape inhaling, the upstairs steps pausing like they were trying to listen through us. And all I could think was, one of them already knows what I say next, and it's waiting for me to prove it right. The house went impossibly still, as if every version of us was holding its breath and waiting for mine. The shape in the closet leaned a little closer, matching the tilt of my head like it was practicing being me. Behind my shoulder, the wall pushed again, gentle but intentional, like it remembered a way through. And upstairs, the footsteps didn't move. They just listened. That was somehow worse. My husband tightened his grip on my wrist. "Don't look at it," he whispered quiet, urgent, almost pleading. The air shifted, sliding down my spine in a way that felt disturbingly familiar, like it had traced that path in another life I didn't fully recall. A small, disloyal part of me felt drawn to it, like I needed to see what was waiting above us. "Why is the upstairs one louder?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "Because that one isn't trying to mimic you." The ceiling above us groaned, wood straining under a slow, patient weight. "It's remembering you." The chill tightened across my ribs. Remembering what? He didn't answer at first, because something in the closet inhaled at the exact same moment I did, almost matching my breath. Frustrated it wasn't perfect yet. "The upstairs one," he said finally, voice shaking, "is the version of you that almost became real." My heart lurched. "I what?" "You don't need to understand it. Just don't acknowledge. And not cut him off. Not from the wall. Not from the stairs. From the inside of the closet door." A single, deliberate tap right at the height of my chest, like it was warning me where it planned to reach through. My pulse slammed into the silence. "It's choosing," he whispered. "Whichever one reaches you first becomes you." And then, without warning, the floor above us shifted, the wall pressed inward, and the closet shape straightened, all three lunging a fraction closer, as if each one realized at the same time that the next second belonged to whoever touched me first. I didn't understand how the house could hold all of them at once. The one pressing from inside the wall, the one tilting out of the closet, the one waiting upstairs with that slow, deliberate patience. But when the floor trembled beneath us and the light thinned to a weak, trembling glow, I realized something far worse than any whisper or shadow. They weren't circling each other. They were circling me, choosing me, the way predators track the one thing that still matters. A long, heavy shift rippled through the room, the wall drawing tighter as if something behind it leaned in to listen. The closet version mirrored my stance with surgical accuracy. And upstairs, the boards creaked once, like someone settling into the idea of being real. My husband's hand clamped around mine, hard, then harder. "Don't breathe," he whispered. "Don't look at it." Not the upstairs one, but a small, treacherous part of me wanted to look, wanted to know which version of me thought it deserved to exist more than I did. Then the upstairs voice drifted down, my voice, but steadier, older, like it already knew how this ended. When my husband heard it, his grip went slack. His fingers didn't release, they failed. They slid down my wrist like his nerves had cut out all at once. His breath hitched and stopped behind his teeth. Then the voice said it. "I've been waiting for you to choose which one of us gets to live your life." And in that instant, I understood the smallest, sharpest truth. The house wasn't showing me possibilities. It was asking me to surrender one of them, so the others could erase me clean. I opened my mouth to speak, not sure if I was answering or pleading, but before I could make a sound, Every version of me moved at once. One whispered from behind the wall. One leaned out of the closet. One stepped on the stair. And then, something answered for me. Before I close, there is one truth this story leaves behind. A reminder that each of us carries quiet versions of who we might have been. The gentle ones, the broken ones, the brave ones, and the ones shaped by moments we never wished to face. Some versions we outgrow, some we protect, and some we must confront before they take one step closer and try to live our life for us. Betrayal, forgiveness, survival, these choices are never simple. They reshape us. They decide which version of ourselves becomes real, and which ones fade back into the silence. In the end, the life we walk through is the one we choose quietly, painfully, and sometimes in the dark, again and again. And yet, every choice we make leaves a shadow behind, and some shadows don't stay where we leave them. And that, dear listeners, brings this story to its end. Thank you for staying with me through every turn. Stories like this don't fade quickly. They linger in the quiet places of our thoughts, reminding us how fragile our choices can be, and how many versions of ourselves we carry within. If this story touched something in you, tell me where you're listening from. Your voices are a comfort after tales as heavy as this. And if you'd like to hear the next life story, don't forget to subscribe. There are many more waiting, each with its own shadow, its own light, and its own unanswered question. Until we meet again, may your heart stay warm and your thoughts stay gentle, and may every quiet corner in your home stay truly your own.